Welcome to B&B. This week we go on a mission with Gal Gadot, expose a con man, invite you to a bat mitzvah, and review an old classic. Stay right there. B&B Movie Reviews is up next. The woman in the van gets revealed to be a highly trained and deadly double agent to her team in the Netflix action film Heart of Stone, currently streaming. Brad, that action sequence, that's a hell of a stunt double in there, isn't it?
I don't know what it is, because this movie looks like my dog's breakfast. It's so dark and gross looking. Like, why are all the action sequences either at night or in shadow?
Yeah.
Oh, because they have to hide everything. Hide the violence, hide the stunt double, hide the digital effects.
Yeah.
This movie looks awful.
And it's crazy too, because you look at the trailers and the promotion of this, and it has like this kind of like bloom glossy sheen over it that is like, oh, this might look kind of cool. When you see like that little motorcycle sequence and everything.
When we arrived at San Diego for Comic-Con, and you're crossing the bridge over to the convention center,
they have that banner,
that huge poster for Heart of Stone. They were trying so hard to sell this movie to us.
Oh, goodness.
You could feel it from that day.
Yeah.
And once you hit play, I'm telling you, I was 5 minutes into this movie, and I was like, I think I could do a review right now. Do I have to watch the rest of this? And I did. I did my homework, but reluctantly.
It's crazy too, man, because when we get into the story of this, and then the whole idea of her being like, the gal in the van.
Yeah, she wants to be Ethan Hunt. This movie desperately wants to be Mission Impossible, and it fails on every level.
Yeah, and then to kind of talk a little bit about something I kind of liked about it. I think in the beginning of the movie, I did like a little bit of the team dynamic, like in that first mission that they're on at the little snow resort.
Yeah,
I thought that some of that stuff was kind of cool between.
I think the cast, especially the supporting cast, is strong. It's just everything around them that's weak.
But the thing is like, and I thought that was something that I could kind of like hook myself into, was the dynamic between the team. And I mean, spoiler alert, and I don't think there's much to spoil in this movie, but about towards the end of the first act, when they after the scene that we just saw, there's like this chase scene, and then once everything dies down, something happens to her team. And I'm just like, at that point, I was like, oh man, I was kind of getting, I kind of like that dynamic between the four of them.
The life drops out of the movie.
And then once they're gone and it's just her, and then it's just like, and then of course like, they're looking for this stone because she's a double agent. They don't know that she's working for another agency, and then everything with that agency, it doesn't really work as well.
Yeah, there is at a midway point, there's an action sequence that is actually the most well-lit action sequence of the movie, and also maybe the worst looking one. When that happened, when that big boom occurred, I was like, oh, movie's over. All right. Let me see, how much longer we got for this epilogue here?
20 minutes.
An hour.
Oh, an hour.
An hour left of the movie. It's produced by some big names. It's a Skydance movie, working with Netflix. Like, they're throwing a lot of money at this film. And it's going to just drown in the algorithm.
It is.
No one's going to think about this movie in a week.
No. It's done. It's done. What's your rating for this one?
Well, we're the B&B show.
Yeah.
So if we like something, we give it a B+. If we don't like something, we give it a B-. And this is a big B-.
Yeah, I have to agree. This is a B- for me. I don't think nothing really worked for me. I think I did enjoy the first act of the movie, but like I said, after
that parachute, man.
Oh, even that, yeah, you're right.
No.
B-. Yeah, so those are our thoughts on, what's the name of this movie?
Heart of Stone.
Yes, those are our thoughts on Heart of Stone. So don't go anywhere. When we return, we're going to talk about another BS movie, BS High. Stay right there.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it here. So what are you waiting for? Just go to the site.
How this happens got a lot of people scratching their head. Bishop Sycamore is not even a real high school.
They did not have teachers.
We really was pretty much on our own.
We didn't have any trainers. People were sharing helmets.
It was disgusting. I was literally sick to my stomach.
I can't believe this happened again.
My philosophy in business is do what the people who have the money do, even if you don't have the money.
Roy will tell you he's a liar.
He knew what to say, how to say it.
He's like, oh, man, you gotta let that go. I said, I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna let go. I'm gonna let go of his neck after I grab it.
A con man manipulates young athletes and their parents into attending his fake high school in the aptly titled BS High, currently streaming on Max. Bryan,
Man, yes.
I did not know anything about Bishop Sycamore.
Neither did I. I mean, I know out of the two of us, I'm kind of like, the big sports fan, and not so much with high school sports, but I mean, this got national coverage because they had a game against another really big high school, IMG, I think it was, that was aired on ESPN.
Yeah, and they show footage of that game in this documentary, which I had never seen before.
Yeah.
But it was stunning. IMG just completely trouncing BS High because it's not a real high school. And like, how does this happen? Like, I watched this whole documentary and I still don't quite understand how the coach and the people around the coach, the support system of Bishop Sycamore, were able to pull this one off. And in the process, really damage a lot of young students' lives.
It's unfortunate because I think, and the documentary kind of focuses on this, although Roy Johnson is a sociopath, a horrible human being, a manipulator, and Bomani Jones, who is in the documentary, he's a sports journalist, he mentioned this towards the end of the documentary where he even says that Roy Johnson is not the problem. He's a symptom to a larger problem.
Absolutely.
Because the institution, and he just really kind of just exploited and abused the institution.
I really appreciate where this documentary ends its story by really highlighting all the cultural and systemic issues that allowed Roy Johnson to perpetrate this crime, although it wasn't a crime.
Exactly.
So, I like where the documentary ends. I don't understand why Roy Johnson agreed to be a part of this thing. I mean, clearly he loves the camera.
That's the thing. I think because he wants to be in the spotlight, and you could tell, even because the thing I love about it is not just the documentary with the subject matter, but also just the filmmaking of this documentary as well. Because when the story starts, you get a little bit of behind the scenes when they sit him down and you see the cameras in the background, they're setting up the shots, and he's talking to the filmmakers, and he even says to them, he was like, are you not going to make me look like a con man, are you? So it's like there's like a rapport that he's having with like the people behind the scenes.
The film is also a great reminder, a little bit of education in media literacy for everyone watching. The moment you walk onto a set and there's a camera present, everything that you say is fair game.
Exactly.
So all the stuff that he was saying that he didn't think was actually part of the interview, that's part of the interview. We all should remember this.
Exactly. But I also love the fact that he's able to tell his version of what happened, because we get to see the interviews with the kids and the parents and what they think of him and what they think of the situation. And a lot of times in some documentaries, you're always getting that third hand, or from a third person perspective, and you never really get to. They're always talking about that person, but we're
all
actually
he's
seeing.
giving us is a lie, right? Like he's constantly writing a script as he's speaking, and editing and rewriting, and it's just a string of lies that he's trying to formulate into something that he thinks will be beneficial for him. I'm not so sure. It's a wonder to watch. It's absolutely engaging.
Yes.
I do, feel a little weird about some of that filmmaking, about some of the choices that they make, how they might or might not be exploiting certain people in this story, but it's all so well put together. It's hard to deny the narrative that they're constructing. But it's complicated.
It's weird, and I know there's a point in the documentary where he's looking at the interviews of the kids that he coached on an iPad, and they're talking bad about him, and then he has to walk out of the interview.
The documentary is a hit piece in a way, right? They are obviously going after Roy Johnson. Now, he hangs himself. But he, and I don't know why Roy Johnson doesn't realize that these people are not on his side.
Yeah, and that's why, and I've heard some criticisms as far as that segment of the documentary feels like it could have been staged, where he walks out and he talks about these kids don't know what I've done for them and everything that I did. But
whether it's staged or not, it's nonsense.
It's nonsense because
it's a performance.
It's a performance from him.
Yeah.
But there's a reality to how they really feel about him, and the documentary lays that out plainly.
Yeah. It's a heartbreaking movie when you hear the stories from the kids. Some of these people were not kids. That's one of the strange aspects to the story. Is how you have 21-year-olds, 20-year-olds tackling children.
I know.
and getting destroyed themselves because they're terrible at it.
Exactly.
It's just such an injustice.
I know. It's sad. It's frustrating. It's compelling. And I just watched this whole documentary just aghast looking at this.
My jaw was on the floor the entire documentary, almost from the beginning. Because, you told me, Brad, we should talk about this on the show. I didn't know anything about it. You look at the poster or the little poster on Max, and you're like, what is this thing? It's like a Friday Night Lights thing. And then as I'm watching, I was like, wait, what is this thing? What is this thing? It's one of the most entertaining and bizarre movies I've watched all year.
Yeah, what's your rating for this one?
Oh, it's got to be a B+. Everyone should check it out.
Yeah. BS high it's a B+ for me, even though there is a lot of BS from Roy Johnson.
It's such a complicated.
It's extremely complicated, but we enjoyed the documentary, so a B+ for both of us on the show. So when we return, Adam Sandler has a new film on Netflix. We'll review that one when we come back. Stay right there.
Today's cancer research is tomorrow's victory. A victory that is there for the taking. Grab it.
Now that was a great halftime speech. Let's go win.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
We don't slam doors in this house.
Dad, I need a break.
Well, welcome to being an adult. And welcome to being Jewish. We don't get breaks.
Oh, my God, stop!
Kissing a boy in a temple! You know how disrespectful that is? Every time you walk into that synagogue, you are declaring to everyone and God, I'm Jewish, and I am part of this.
Well, maybe I don't want to be.
Yes, you do.
I was born into God's kingdom.
Yeah, well, God wants you out right now. How's that?
I hate you.
You don't mean that.
Wow, I never said that to him, and I was nuts.
Adam Sandler plays Danny Friedman, who confronts his daughter about kissing a boy in the synagogue temple in the coming-of-age comedy You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah, now streaming on Netflix.
Yeah, but does he play Danny or is he playing Adam Sandler?
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah,
because
I think you got it right the first time.
Because I love Adam Sandler, and it's always great to see him as he gets older kind of grow as an actor. even when he does kind of like these kind of, I don't want to call this a generic comedy, but he stretches
He's
himself.
made some bad movies.
He's made a lot of bad movies.
My enthusiasm for Adam Sandler comedies in particular has dwindled over the years.
Very much so.
And I was not necessarily like itching to watch this one.
But he's not the star.
But he's not the star. But but his family's the star.
Yeah, which is interesting because watching this movie, I had no idea about the making of this movie and who was actually in this movie. And then to find out that this is really a family affair because his daughters are, well, his youngest daughter, Sunny Sandler, is the star of this movie.
Yeah, and Sadie Sandler is the sister, and Sandler's wife is not his wife, but the friend's wife. So I mean, it's a family production, and nepotism. We have a lot of conversations about that right now. But if they were bad at it, maybe I'd have a problem with it, but they're all really good.
Yeah, and I thought, because, I mean, looking up Sunny Sandler, who basically carries this movie, I was looking to see if she did anything previous to this, and I don't think she has a lot of credits from what I could see on IMDb. And for her, at a young age, to be able to carry, I mean, granted, this is more of a teen kind of coming of age movie, kind of more so that kind of harkens back to like the John Hughes
watched lots of those
movies.
kinds of movies, right? And they live or die on the young actor, and often they die, and this one does not. I think Sunny Sandler is fantastic in the movie. I think the cast as a whole is really, really good. I think the direction from Sammy Cohen is fantastic. I want to see more movies from her.
Yeah, because I think that there's a nice energy and a nice chemistry between a lot of the young actors in this movie, especially with a lot of the high school scenes, a lot of the scenes when they go to the synagogue temple and they have to have their classes, and some of the teachers, there's some very eccentric teachers that are in this movie as well. So I kind of
Sarah Sherman, right, playing the rabbi, very, very funny.
So there's a lot of stuff that very feels like it falls into like a Happy Madison production.
Yeah, and like the earliest Sandler movies were like these tiny little characters that really shouldn't like preoccupy the audience's mind in any way. They really steal moments.
Yes.
The kid playing Andy, the object of Sonny's affection in this film, he is so good, and he has almost nothing to do, but just the way that he moves across the screen and the way that Sammy Cohen shoots those sequences, those frames. Every time he was on screen, I was laughing.
Yeah. He steals a lot of the scenes that he's in, and he's kind of like that. He's kind of like the plot device that puts. And I'm forgetting Sunny Sandler. I keep referring to her as Sunny Sandler, but I'm forgetting her name.
It's just like the Danny Friedman thing, right?
I know,
Adam Sandler is Adam Sandler. Sunny Sandler is probably Sunny Sandler.
Yeah, like so her and her best friend, who are both having their bat mitzvahs. That character Andy is kind of like the plot device that's coming in between them that kind of causes a little bit of that friction.
Now, there is a betrayal that divides that friendship at some point in this movie, and it then escalates, and it gets to a point where...
Like a point of no return?
Yeah, a point of no return. But of course, the movie wants to leave you feeling good. So, friendships are mended.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could have mended that friendship.
I mean, you got to think like a bat mitzvah is a huge part of a child's life, and like if that gets ruined, especially by somebody that's close to you,
the way that it gets ruined in this movie, the fact that it's not just a humiliation for her in front of her peers. But her family, her neighbors.
Yeah.
No. You've just salted the earth.
You did.
We're done being friends.
But it's funny though, because I thought that at the end of the movie, because they do kind of have a mending and a reconciliation with that, and I thought that was a very sweet moment in the way they ended the movie. But at the same time, I'm thinking, do you really like?
I don't know. I also wonder if it's because we're old men, Brian.
Yeah, too.
Because
that too.
I think the current generation, they're putting a lot of humiliation up on their TikToks, right? I'm going to sound so old right now.
Yeah.
But maybe they're just used to these tiny humiliations building into one major humiliation.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
So glad I didn't grow up with a TikTok account.
Thankfully we didn't have that during our generation. Thankfully. So, but what's your rating for this one?
Well, this old man had a really great time watching this coming-of-age story.
Yeah.
I have to give it a B+.
Same. I really thoroughly enjoyed watching this. So yeah, I have to give it a B+ as well. So yeah, there you go, a B+ for both of us as well on that one. So yeah, those are our thoughts on You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah. So when we return, we are going to do a retro review for an old classic. You stay right there.
Going to cheerleading camp next to the abandoned insane asylum, it's like throwing your blood away.
50% of Americans like watching blood get spilled in horror movies, but only 3% donated.
Now that's scary.
That's just part of the one-take hallway fight scene that has become one of the cinema's most memorable scenes in recent history from the Korean film OldBoy, celebrating its 20th anniversary. Can that be right? 20 years ago?
It's like 20 years went by so fast.
Oh my goodness. Bryan, everyone remembers where they were when they first saw OldBoy. What was your initial reaction when you saw this film 20 years ago?
Well, I didn't get a chance, unfortunately, to see it on the big screen when it came out 20 years ago, but I was able to see it on home video.
Home video? I've heard about that.
Yeah.
In my history text.
Yes. And I gotta tell you, man, when I first saw this movie, I mean, it was, I don't want to sound like too grandiose when I say this, but not being that well versed or actually coming into Korean cinema around that time, it was kind of transformative. And
I'm pretty sure this is the first Korean film I ever saw.
Yeah, and it kind of led into a lot of influx of a lot of the stuff that we saw with more Korean cinema, and also how Hollywood and American cinema has been influenced by what Korean cinema has done.
Honestly, I feel like every revenge film that I have seen after OldBoy is measured with OldBoy.
Exactly,
right?
always,
and most of the times they fail to live up to it. This is a movie that is extremely emotional. It's visual as all get out. And one of the great things about OldBoy is that it will give you moments, these little visual moments, throughout the whole thing. So you'll get something like, whoa, whoa. You're constantly going, whoa. You never just sit and chill with OldBoy.
No. Once the movie starts, it puts its hooks in you, and you're captivated from the beginning. I mean, and again, even though this is a 20-year-old movie, we're doing a retro review, but no spoilers for this, because for anybody that has not seen this movie, it's an experience watching it from beginning to end, but that ending is such a gut punch of an ending. And you talk about the idea of revenge and how, we always talk about like violence begets more violence and how that's a cycle. Revenge is the same way. You just talk about this revolving door. And this movie kind of implements that to a certain degree for me. And I think it does it in such a horrific and a beautiful way.
I mean, it is a horrific film. At times, OldBoy is a horror movie. It's a great action film at other times. That hallway sequence, that's another sequence that you measure other action sequences to. It is certainly iconic. But I think the truly iconic moment of this movie is its climax and how it leaves you feeling. And it is one that it puts you down low, but it puts you down low in a way that you marvel at.
You do.
Because it is so well constructed. The screenplay, this is based on the Korean comic book, which I would also highly recommend if you can track it down, because it's out of print. And the comic book takes a long time to build. And the movie takes a long time to build. And it's intricate. It's all these tiny little pieces. And then it reveals reveals the picture.
Yeah,
the
man.
puzzle comes together.
I mean, and I want to talk a little bit about Park Chan-wook, because when this movie came out in 2003, this was kind of part of a trilogy.
Yeah, the Vengeance trilogy.
The Vengeance trilogy that is not necessarily connected from what I can remember.
Not narratively, but thematically.
Thematically,
yeah,
it is.
Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance,
and Sympathy
OldBoy,
for Lady Vengeance.
and then Sympathy for Lady Vengeance.
And it's interesting because talking more about the cultural impact, and we talk about that with American cinema and how it's been impacted from not just OldBoy, well, from Korean cinema and from OldBoy, but I think in Park Chan-wook's career, even in Bong Joon-ho's career, another Korean filmmaker that we enjoy as well, just not necessarily with the revenge movies, but just the idea of how that type of cinema has grown over the last 20 years.
OldBoy casts a huge shadow, and it's almost unfortunate because we get a lot of South Korean movies in America, but we don't get a ton. But every one that we do get, if you read a review, OldBoy comes up usually.
It does,
and that's a blessing and a curse. And even for Park Chan-wook, his latest film, Decision to Leave, was fantastic. I loved it.
Yeah.
But the first thing I do when I am watching that movie is I'm thinking, well, do I like it as much as OldBoy?
Yeah,
and that's a shame. That's on me.
It feels like his every movie he makes is always going to be measured to OldBoy, and that is kind of unfortunate.
Yeah. But then you get a director like Spike Lee who decides to remake OldBoy, and when you hear that, you're like, what? Josh Brolin as Odesu? Like, this is ridiculous. And I gotta say, it's not as good.
Okay,
It's not terrible.
I never saw the remake, which came 10 years on the 10th anniversary in 2013. Spike Lee, which was an interesting choice for Spike Lee to do a Korean remake.
I think it says a lot about Spike Lee's admiration for the first film, and Spike Lee does different things than what Park Chan-wook would do or did, and I think it does create an interesting conversation between the two films, and is worth it. I would recommend checking it out, but I would, no right mind say that it's good as or superior to the original film.
I just want to make one quick point just about Korean cinema in general, and it reminded me of another film. I can't remember the filmmaker's name, but it was another film called I Saw the Devil. And, and it was the ending. Like the ending to OldBoy, I know you're thinking of.
Because you asked the question, the name has fled my brain.
But it's funny how we always end these Korean films on a note that kind of feels very. There's a lot of ambiguity to how we leave or how we end these movies. And the way OldBoy ends with, like, sometimes it'll end with a certain shot where you don't really know what that means or where that leaves the character. And that movie, I Saw the Devil, does the same thing because that's a movie that deals with vengeance and revenge as well.
The difference, the difference for me between OldBoy and I Saw the Devil is that when I'm watching I Saw the Devil, I'm a little bit nauseous. Because it's so disturbing.
And that one is more viscerally violent.
And OldBoy is also very disturbing. But in a lyrical way.
I like that. Yeah, like you say, a lyrical way. Yeah, you're right about that. What's your? I guess we know what our rating is. But
it's a masterpiece. It's one of my favorite films. Period. It's certainly one of the best films of the millennium. You gotta watch OldBoy if you have not watched OldBoy. It's a huge B+.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it's a classic that will definitely stand the test of time. And 20 years. It's amazing it's been that long.
But it will mess you up.
It will.
Some people might not like that.
You're right. It may not be for everybody. I will say that. But I would say, as a film lover, as we both are, cinephiles, it's a B+ for me. So, so those are our thoughts on OldBoy. Let's recap what we reviewed.
Yes, what did we review, Brian?
We'll recap what we reviewed this week. See if I remember this. Heart of Stone, we gave a B-. BS High, the documentary on Max, we gave a B+. plus. You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah, we also gave that a B plus. And for our retro review of OldBoy, we give that a B plus as well. So thank you for joining us on this latest episode of B&B Movie Reviews. Come be a part of the conversation. If you have questions, suggestions, feel free to email us at bnbmoviereviews@gmail.com. And with that, we will see you at the movies.
Yeah.